All right, we are live, man. Preview show, GYGB War Report show, Crawford Con this weekend live on ESPN pay-per-view. And, we're going to be talking about it. I'm your co-host, Roberto Flack. Got my man Coltrane.
What
Is
up?
that
What up?
is that the Coke Zero?
No,
The cherry Coke, John?
no, it's milk, little homemade milkshake. Little homemade milkshake tonight. No Coke tonight.
Oh, word. Yeah, if ROD were on here, man, he'd be killing you.
You'll be killing me, man.
Yo, man. So we're here, man. Terrence Crawford, Amir Khan on ESPN pay-per-view. I think this is their first pay-per-view in the modern era. I don't think they've had anyone from my recollection, unless you guys can tell me. I forgot the last time I heard about an ESPN pay-per-view, but that courtesy of Top Rank, and I believe it's, Madison Square Garden. So we're gonna talk about that, but. A fight that kind of went under the radar that's on the same night on Fox, free TV, Danny Garcia, Adrian Granados. So, we're going to be talking about that as well. But, before we get to that, we got to obviously talk about last Friday. I want to say Friday. I completely forgot the fight was on a Friday night, and that was Vasily Lomachenko against Anthony Corolla, and that was on the ESPN Plus app. A lot of people were hitting me up like, yo, what time does fight start? And I'm like, yeah, it's on the app though, man. They're like, what? It's still, a lot of people have not jumped on the app yet. I mean, it's natural. It is what it is. But did you get a chance to see that at all? Or if you even see the highlights? I mean, it wasn't
I saw
much,
the highlights, but I don't have
see.
the app, so I was out the loop. I saw the highlights on YouTube and ESPN, but I didn't actually get a chance to see the fight live because I don't have that app. I know you just got it, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm trying it out right now. The zone went up $10. Well, I mean, for people
that,
who
right?
are going to do it for that are subscribing now, it's going to be $20, and this is without the NBA package and the MLB package and the NFL package that are available in other countries. But ESPN Plus just seems like the better deal. But again, man, it's people aren't hip to it yet, and I've talked to a lot of people about the app itself, and they're like, do I have to go online? And people already get very apprehensive about logging in and setting up an account. I mean, we're still in like the early stages of it. So, most people didn't see this Lomachenko Anthony Corolla fight, but there was just, I mean, Train saw the highlights. I mean, there's really not much to take away from this fight because going into the fight, shout to ROD, this was like 101 fight, man. We knew the outcome of this fight. So I think the question now, man, is, look, there's a handful of fights at this point that we want to see Vasily Lomachenko in. He is going to fight Richard Kami, who is the IBF champion, and that'll solidify 3 of the 4 titles. We still have to see with the deal with Mikey Garcia. He's having a meeting with the WBC this week as it relates to if he's going to relinquish the title, if he's going to stay at 135. If you ask me, I think he's probably going to relinquish the title. I just can't see him making 135 that comfortably now, being that he went up and bulked up and got to 147. I mean, we've seen how many fighters try to go back down and weight. Doesn't really play out that well for him, man. So, Train, like what do you see in Lomachenko's immediate future that you think would gain the attention of the general public? Because it's just the matchups do matter, So, like, what do you think is a fight in the immediate that would gain a lot of attention from him?
It's 2 fights that's going to make him some money. First one is with Tank, and now we all know how the fight will play out. But like Broner, Tank is a guy that sell tickets. Like, he can sell the fight on social media, and he can sell the fight, just point blank range. Period. It'll be a co-feature with Top Rank and Mayweather Promotion. So then you add the Floyd aspect in to help promoting it. And I think that fight needs to be made sooner than later. Now, here's the problem. Floyd's not putting him in the ring with Lomachenko no time soon. So that fight only happens. It'll be like a Canelo and Triple G thing. And listen, I know people get upset about this, but look, let's be honest. Canelo didn't fight Triple G until he started to slide a little bit. Again, you know, he had to fight against Danny Jacobs, and they jumped at the bit to go fight Triple G, pardon me. So it'll have to be a scenario like that where Lomachenko shows some chinks in the armor and starts sliding a little bit. Because just like Triple G, he started out older, and look, age catches up with them all. No matter how good you are, it just does. And I think that's the only scenario if for that fight happening. But I'm just to answer your question, he needs a polarizing opponent. Now the other guy, we all know who that guy is, and that's the guy that decided he wanted to go up 2 weight class. Well, technically one, but we all know Mikey Garcia is nothing more than a 135, maybe 140 pound fighter. And for me, that's a fight that can get made tomorrow. Like, and they both guys kind of like Mikey. Well, Lomo needed more than Mikey, but Mikey did 300,000 because let's face it, he brought a lot of that, most of those fans to that 300K. So now you're talking about him and Lomachenko doing a pay-per-view. That's at least, the 500,000-700,000 pay-per-view buy, maybe even $1 million. But that's, to me, it's a no-brainer that fight needs to get done now. The problem is now, though, I still think he can probably make weight. It's just what weight they would fight at. That's the big question. Well,
that's the thing. It's like Lomachenko's not going to go above 135. I mean, they've already made that.
That's the problem.
Clear, And with Mikey, we talked about this. I mean, we saw what happened with Roy when he went up in weight.
Yeah.
He came back down, almost identical the amount of weight. Like, he had to drop, right? Close to, but
yeah. No joke, bro. No joke. That is
not the.
I think ROD just tried to peek in. I know he's big on Roy dropping that weight.
But once your legs go, man, and you fight somebody like a Lomachenko, who you have got to be. I mean, your footwork has to be on par, and again, we're not talking about foot speed, but your footwork has to be on par. And I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't think Mikey's gonna try to give him any advantage he can. Now, look, Mikey is bigger than Lomachenko. Let's not get it twisted, but it's like bulking to 147 and then coming back to 135. Though Mikey wasn't a big welterweight, I mean, he really wasn't a welterweight. It's almost like it's kind of like when he went, what Broner went through. He went from 135 all the way to 147, came back to 140 and was having trouble. Now, granted, Mikey's a more disciplined fighter, but regardless of the fact, man, you start moving up and down in weight like that, it's problems, man. And I think ROD popped on. Yo, you there, ROD? I think you got the mute joint on. There you go.
Hey, I'm here. What's going on?
Oh, what's popping, ROD? We got Voltron is formed. so yeah, ROD, man. We talked about this as it relates to Lomachenko and like even the potential of Mikey fighting, man. You talked about this. Like, what do you think of? I mean, do you think Mikey can really come back and fight Lomachenko at 135 and make it comfortably?
No, I mean, I think Train has said this like two.
I don't know what happened to him. That happened to me at first. He might got to refresh the screen.
Can you guys hear me?
Browser.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah.
Okay. It was crazy because what Train had said a while ago was that Mikey was done. That beaten, and I think actually Train Dad has said it. Shout out to Mr. Islam. He actually has said it that that Mikey was done. Like, that beating he took was not good. And
you hear him?
Yeah.
I can't hear him for some reason.
You can't hear me?
Well, you try and get out, Train, and then.
All right, let me try to come back again.
No, go ahead, RD.
No, he was just saying that beating was just bad for his career. So, listen, I'm picking a fresh Lomo over Mikey at this point right now. I just think he's too damaged as a fighter, and I think that weight is just too much. Losing that weight and coming down and fighting at that lower weight class is going to be too much for Mikey at this point, especially against Lomachenko.
I'm leaning towards that too. I'm of that mindset. You hear him, Train, or
I hear him now. Yeah.
oh, okay,
yeah.
word.
Yeah, ROD. I was telling him before you got on, you know how adamant you were about Roy shedding that weight after he fought Tarver, and you was basically calling, you know, career suicide.
Yeah, and I quoted what your dad had said that Mikey was done. You know, after that weight.
Yeah.
Your dad had, you know, shout out to Mr. Islam. He basically said, "Yo, like he done," and I believe it, man. Like there's no way he goes in there against Mikey. I'm trying to figure out who is he going to be.
Yeah.
You know, who is he going to be? Like, what is he going to be? That
fight made no sense when we now.
Yep.
I mean,
from the beginning, but all of us we were like,
I'm questioning, what are you gaining out of this?
He gained nothing. He got
paid, man. I mean, we all know he got paid. It's
just,
well,
no doubt about. Other than that, the obvious,
right? It's listen, just at this point, it's like we want to see him and Lomachenko and Mikey fight, but you know, there's always there's going to be, regardless of what anybody thinks. I mean, there's people, especially in this generation, there's going to be an asterisk next to it because people are going to say, oh, well, you know, what we're talking about now, that he went up and then came down. And he was a little damaged, or he couldn't make weight, or whatever. So,
Train, I had told Roberto last week that a lot of people were trying to find moral victories in that fight. They were saying, "Oh, he didn't get knocked down, or he didn't get stopped," and you know, he parried a lot of those punches. And I said, "Listen, all that stuff may be true, but you and I both know, man, that homeboy is damaged. Like he really messed up under that hood. You know, like he messed up, man. That check engine light, man, is on. We don't see it, but that check engine light is on."
Yeah, man, I agree, man. I mean, he took people they misconstrue, you know, somebody getting knocked out or bloodied up in a fight. You know, there's the other side of it where, you know, you're taking a lot of punches. Granted, you don't get knocked down, and that's what and that's what we were talking about, like the moral victories. I mean, look, Mikey took a thorough beating, man, and going into his next fights now, you know, you got to start to wonder, like, all right, well, what is left of Mikey Garcia? Because another thing, man, he's not a spring chicken either. I mean, he's not old by any stretch of the, you know, the imagination, but I'm talking about in boxing years. He's like 31, 32, but you start to look down the road, man, he's definitely not a welterweight. So at like 140, I mean, who are these guys that he could potentially fight, you know, or that will make him, like, I forgot, I think it was Tim Bradley that said this, like which fight will make him come up, like, you know, the Lomachenko fight maybe, but can you make 135? But what else? Like, he fought Spence, he lost. Like, what's next? You know, so I don't know, man. I really don't know.
And then I guess the other question is, we hear now, and Train, what do you think about this? Like, Andrade is really calling Spence out now, sort of like how, you know, Spence was doing to Mikey. Yeah, he's like, hey, listen, you know what? You like picking on small people? Come up a few weight classes and fight me. I'll fight you. And Spence is like, yo, I don't even know who you are. I didn't even know you had a belt. So what you think about that? What do you think about that, Train? Like, it's kind of reversed now. Like,
here's a funny thing. I got Spence beating him. I'm serious, only because a guy like him, he's a bigger guy, obviously, because he's like really he's bigger because I think he might be taller.
Yeah, he is.
He's a bigger guy. He just looks bigger. Even I don't know what the, you know, his dimensions are, but he's a bigger dude. But you know, it's not really work for Spence because Spence is bigger than what he is. I'm saying on paper, Spence is bigger, you know, as far as what he's going to be able to do at the welterweight division. But to Radada's point, a few years back or a year ago, he kept harping on the fact that Spence probably going to eventually have to move up in weight, because how long do you sit and wait for these guys to fight or try to or hope? Because listen, the Crawford and Spence, it don't have nothing to do with them. It's a promotional thing between promotion A and promotion B. It don't have nothing to do with them. But the problem for Spence is the other guys, the other established welterweights, the Thurmans, the Dannys, the Sean Porter, who said after the fight he was going to give Spence the fight and went MIA and fought some awkward dude from Africa. And, you know, it's just like, what do you do at this point if you Spence? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you keep waiting around and until you starve yourself to make 47? Because there's going to come a point in time where he struggles to make 47.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it's sooner than later. You know,
like Crawford he could peak out at 47.
And I think that's what's gonna happen. He's probably peaked at, you know, not everybody goes up like 5-6 weight classes.
Right.
I think Terrence Crawford is like a good. I think he's like a solid welterweight for the rest of his career. But you know, we'll get to him in a few. But so yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Lomachenko. I mean, he's fighting Richard Kami next. I mean, I think that's the immediate plan. That's another unification fight. After that is when things get tricky as far as his opponents. Oh, by the way, man, you can tell his English is starting to get pretty good, man, because he's starting to throw these slick jokes out. And I don't know if anybody caught. I put it on the chat. You know, they were doing the press conference, the post fight interview with, you know, Lomachenko and Bob Arum, and somebody in the crowd was saying, we're asking, or one of the reporters asking, you know, about the Gervonta Davis fight, and Lomachenko went to answer, and Bob interjected. He's like, you know, he gets in his whole spiel. You know, you gotta talk to Floyd Mayweather. He's his promoter. And then they kind of cuts into Lomachenko, and he says something like, you know, Gervonta Davis is one of the top fighters of boxing on Twitter. You can hear the whole place kind of laughing and everything. But I guess they're trying to chime in about that, but you know, I don't know for the immediate future with Lomachenko's, you know, for a big fight, what's going to be, you know, the big fight for him. But in any case, speaking of Danny Garcia, you know, we completely forgot this fight was happening this weekend. There's two notable fights, you know, quote unquote, one's gonna be on Fox, and you know, obviously the other one ESPN pay-per-view. But we'll talk about the one that's gonna be on Fox free TV. Danny Garcia, Adrian Granados. I mean, look, I mean, I don't. Is this a crossroads fight for Danny? Like, would you guys consider this a crossroads fight for Danny, or is this like a fight he should easily win at this point?
You wanna go first, or?
I mean, I think this is a fight that on paper he should easily win, but it always seems, you know, Train and I talk, it always seems that Danny's at a crossroads fight. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Train? It's just
Yeah. I was going to say, is this like every is it that annual time of year again?
Yeah, like, you know, every time I watch a YouTube video and you put in Danny Garcia and, you know, they put up something similar to what you watch, and, you know, Training our Philly to the core, we always see like these two fights that everybody claims that he's won, and I'm like, there's no way. And that's that Thurman fight and the Porter fight. I'm like, how could you guys say he won this fight? And I can go back and tell you like another fight he really lost, but I think this fight is a crossroad fight for Danny. I mean, only to the point of it's going to determine if he's going to fight Thurman or Porter next, because none of those guys are not going to fight Spence after what just happened. So, you know, I think this is a crossroad fight for him in terms of if he is going to determine if he fights Thurman or Porter next. But he could win this fight, and he should win this fight. But if he mess around and not become active, he could lose this fight too. I don't think he's going to knock Granados out, to be honest. He can outwork him. But I'm going to tell you something. don't be surprised if there's, you know, pockets where Granados is outworking him too. Like we've seen Granados fight, man, and yeah, he has some losses, but you know the guy works.
He's
The
tough.
guy's a yeah, he's work. He's a work. You can ask Adrian Broner. You know, ask those guys. He makes good people look bad. It's a, you know, so and Danny sometimes, man, he has the tendency, man. Other than shout out to Train when he fought Matiste, I have not seen him step up. Every time he step up against good comp, man, it just looks like he's stuck in that airplane mode, man. Like he just can't get out of neutral. So, you know, this could be a crossroad fight for him, and he could mess around and look like a C plus, C minus, and no one's gonna be calling for him. But you know what's funny? He might be okay with that because he doesn't want. It doesn't seem like he wants to fight anybody but Porter and Thurman. So being a C plus may be cool with him. I don't know what you think, Train.
Like you said, I feel like at this point, like I just think Danny's just a name at this point. You know, he's just a name fighter that he's not a big name like he was, you know, and it's a shame he don't have a lot of losses. It's just that the way the boxing game is right now, this current wave of boxers, I should say, and it's this module that they all use like their own Mayweather type of level where they can pick and choose. And I'm not, listen, if you want to pick and choose who you fight, I'm not knocking that. That's you choose to do that, whatever. But don't exceed. Fans aren't business minded, so don't expect them to think like how you think. So when fans get on certain fighters and call them cherry pickers or what have you, you know, the fans want to see the elite fight the elite or just the best fight the best. So when they see a guy like Earl Spence, and I ain't gonna get into Terrence Crawford because he's not in this particular stable, so we can kind of exclude him. But it's kind of messed up when you got a guy like Earl Spence who is ready to fight all these guys. They're under the same management. What's the problem? And I don't want to hear that, well, Spence ain't earned the right to fight none of these guys, because one could say that Spence versus Kell Brook is better than any of those guys fighting each other. Because I think people forget how good of a fighter Kell Brook is.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? So it's a shame, and I don't want to go on a tangent, but it's just like it kind of relate to this whole Danny thing that he's fighting a guy, you know, basically that was fighting Adrian Broner a couple years ago. And it's no knock to Granados, but you know, the fact that we even calling this a crossroad fight, you know, tells you all that you need to know kind of where Danny's career has gone. You know, so even if he beat Granados, I don't know what that means. You could technically supposed to beat a guy like this. And we need to, now, to be fair, somewhat, Danny, Porter, and Thurman all fought each other. But that being said, there's new flavor in the air with Earl Spence, who is a belt holder, a guy that has no opponents. Because let's face it, these fights can be made pretty easily. But they're all cashing out. Crawford, not Spencer, Crawford, Thurman, Porter, and Danny cash out, you know, and when you cash out, these are the type of fights that you're going to be taking. But this fight this Saturday, Danny should win on Saturday, but if he was to lose, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I mean, that's crazy at this point. I mean, because you know, to your point, Train, I mean, I think every year we're kind of like, we see Danny either in these fights where we're like, why? Or these fights where, you know, whether it was the Porter the Thurman fight where it was going to be that answer, or like, all right, can Danny get over that hump, you know? And at least at welterweight, he hasn't managed to do that just yet. Now, the Granados fight, when they announced it, I was like, all right, again, we're back here one more time. A fight Danny should win, you know, pretty comfortably, but there's always that chance where he just doesn't show up, and then we start to question, like, all right, well, what does he have left that, you know, he hasn't shown us? So for him, man, I think he has to have like a big outing, okay? And I'm not necessarily saying a knockout, but he has to have like a very dominant win, because I think if he has problems with Adrian Granados, man, it's gonna be at that point like it doesn't make sense for Spence to even fight Danny or even Thurman or Porter, you know, because this is what I think as far as Thurman is concerned. He's fighting Pacquiao apparently in July, like they're finalizing that deal. And I really think Spence and Porter are going to fight, man. I think they're putting Porter in that position to fight Spence more than with Thurman, because Thurman's been the longest standing champion there. So they're kind of going to give him the Pacquiao fight before anybody else. But that kind of leaves Danny out. Like, let's just say he wins, and he wins pretty, you know, comfortably, and he looks good. Like, who does he go after with those guys not available, like in the immediate? You know, like, does he just fight, like, just keep fighting those type of fighters, and he's just comfortable doing that?
I mean, see that's the big question here. You know, like what's next? You know, even if he has his big showing, like what's next?
Yeah.
Rematch with Porter? Do we need to see?
I mean, we don't need to see those fights. Like,
I don't need to see none of those rematches. Like,
none of them. None of them.
And that's the thing about it. Like I said, this is like a love triangle, man. And you know, and they'll all, you know, it's funny, especially Danny. I love when he says, and again, we're Philly to the core, where he says, you know, Spence hasn't fought anybody. Like, I fought Thurman and Porter. I'm like, yeah, because you guys want to fight each other. Like, you guys had chances to fight Spence, and you guys didn't want to fight Spence. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of people would adore and embrace Danny if he fought Spence at a comeback fight, you know, just to kind of like, you know, hey, you know what, I'm here. But the one thing we didn't say, man, is that he's bigger than Granados.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I brought up the Broner situation.
Right. You're absolutely right. But, you know, again, his problem, like you said, Train, is his inactivity in fights, man. He can sometimes disappear in fights, start complaining that he lost. He stopped throwing his hands.
Yeah. Or he looks for the home run, right?
He looked for the home run. So, like, he does have that. I mean, he should win. But, like you said, Train, I wouldn't be surprised, and no one should, if he gets outworked.
It happened with, what's the little dude name that outworked him? Herrera?
Mauricio Herrera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brought it out. Did we watch that together?
I think we did, man.
He just looped it. He just circled him side. He just fought lateral. It was like a real simple thing he did, how he did it, but it was effective.
It's almost like he doesn't want, I don't know, man. Like, I hate to say this, but remember when Terrence Crawford was on his behind and he got out of the 140? Remember that?
Yeah.
And he got out of 140, man. Then Spence started to come up. It's almost like he doesn't want to be great. Because he could be so good, man.
Yeah, I mean, he just looks comfortable, like, with, you know, making the money he's made, or at least to me it seems. I mean, you could tell, man. I mean, you could tell when you see guys like Spence and with Crawford, like, they're looking further down the road, you know. They're not looking at it's like with some of these guys, it just seems like they're telling you they're looking there, but they're looking kind of like at the exit door, you know. But I don't know, man. I mean, he has to show it in the ring ultimately. And I think if you can't beat somebody like Adrian Granados, like, handily, I don't like your chances against Errol Spence or even against the guys we just mentioned again in a rematch. Like, would you pick Danny in a Thurman rematch?
No.
Like, what didn't we see in the first fight? You know, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think we need to see a rematch. But I don't know. I mean, I guess on to the pay-per-view card. So again, I think this is ESPN's. Well, this is ESPN's first pay-per-view with Top Rank, which I find funny, and I knew they were going to do this because they're really bigging up the ESPN Plus app. Bob was telling people, get the app, don't worry about it, boom, boom, boom. Lo and behold, we're still in the pay-per-view era. So, I mean, I'm going to just go down the card. I mean, it's, as far as names are concerned, it is a decent named card. I mean, I'm going to go, Felix Verdejo against Brian Vasquez. Verdejo is one of these guys, man, that I was bigging up. There's something, I don't know what it is. There's something missing with him, but I mean, he might be a guy that might be fighting the next guy I'm going to talk about, Teofimo Lopez, who's gaining a lot of traction now against Edis Tatley in a lightweight fight, and then Shakur Stevenson, Christopher Diaz in a fight. I think this is going to be Stevenson's toughest test. He's been training with Terrence Crawford, and obviously the main event, Terrence Crawford and Amir Khan. So, Train. I guess, yeah. Just give me your thoughts on the fight itself.
Yeah, I mean, basically, when the fight first got brought up, I mean, it is what it is. It's a fight to get Crawford some more notoriety. You just write a bunch of names, tear them all, put them in a hat, and pick out a name and see who comes up. And it happened to be Amir Khan. Listen, this is a class business, boxing, and older, washed up guys that been knocked out several times, fighting a guy like Terrence Crawford, who don't just box people, but he beats people up. He's not a one hit. He's not a one hit out the park guy. And for my baseball people out there, he's an on base hitter. He's a guy that manufacture runs, and he literally go to every base before he goes home. And Khan is a guy, and we talk about punch resistance a lot here on Guard Your Girl. He has none. It's gone. People was telling me like, oh, I don't know if the right kind. It reminded me of Zab Judah. Like, it's the same Broner, all the same.
Yeah.
They're all one in the.
Yeah.
Blindfold me, Duck Goose. They're all the same to me. Khan, Broner, Zab, you name them. I can go on and on. Chad Dawson, who ride or die now, Adorson got behind, but I'm a realist. And I was a big Zab guy. These guys are heartbreakers. They're heartbreaker guys. I was a the next big payout, the next big job, that one last job, that one last hurrah. And you're going to get your feelings hurt every time with these type of guys. Very talented individuals, but this business isn't about talent, just about talent. Talent is only a part of it. You got to actually, have skills to pay these bills, as they say. But listen, this is moments. This is Crawford's moment. Amir Khan is, come on, man. Where was he at? He just got dropped by some Uber driver, like a year ago. He ended up winning the fight, but he got dropped.
Yeah.
He got dropped by a dude that was delivering his food, and he was able to end up winning the fight. But his punch resistant, I don't think, some people might not understand. Like, basically, he don't react well to punches at all. Like, you can blow on Conor, he will probably fall down in the ring. His chin is it was always, listen, when he was at his prime, his chin was suspect. Listen, like I said, ton of talent, hand speed is off the chain. I don't know how it looks anymore, but, he fights like an amateur, like he's just trying to outpoint you. In boxing, it's a lot more trickery involved than just trying to outpoint a fighter. Kawasaki was a guy that kind of had a bit of an amateur style, but Kawasaki had some tricks with his stuff. Rada Dye used to call him the elliptical machine. And he never got tired. Khan gets tired. Khan doesn't clinch. Khan doesn't roll his shoulder. His footwork's okay, but when you fight a guy like Crawford who can switch hit on a dime, he knows how to clinch, knows how to jab, knows how to throw short counter punches, stuff that Khan is known for. I mean, not known for. And my man told me something about Khan. I can't even act like this line is mine. You know, my man Daoud, who also cuts my hair here and there, he said the problem with Khan is that he waits for his change. He's always waiting for his change. And Bernard called it. When I was talking to my man Doe, I said, you know, Khan always admiring his work. So he said, yeah, he admires his work and he waits for his change. And we saw him get clipped against Danny, Canelo. The list goes on of people that clipped him while he was waiting to get his change back. So I just think that I think Crawford's going to stop him. Let me just say that. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because Crawford has a really mean way that he fights. He doesn't carry people. I don't even think he knows that's in his DNA to carry people. Like Spence is a Southern gentleman. He's a killer. But I think if he rock with you a little bit, like I thought he carried Mikey Garcia, mm-hmm. Crawford, he don't know nothing about that. Crawford, his sisters, his mom, I don't think they got no chill button. And we see him after fight snap on people. I don't think it's not personal. I just think this is a DNA thing. And I think this is the wrong guy to fight. And I'm still trying to figure out, it must have been a really nice check Bob Arum gave Khan, because what is he gaining out of this? Like Khan, he can go in England and fight somebody. So the fact that I respect him, you know, from a G standpoint, but damn, Radada, what was that on the last day of school or work? Who's taking a test or who's doing an assignment on the last day of work? I think that's something you said. Perfect segue for you to jump in. Earl Diggity. I don't know what happened.
I think we forgot to turn off the mute button.
Yeah. But that's it, Roberto. I just think that.
No, I'm sorry. I heard everything you said, my brother. But yeah, you're right, man. Like you said, last day of class, you're not trying to do no science project. You know, you trying to pack up the number 2 pencils and get the phone numbers for the summer and trying to line things up. You know what I mean? But I agree with everything you said, man. And the last fight he had was Vargas. It was Samuel Vargas. If I'm not mistaken, tell me if I'm right or wrong, Roberto. He got knocked down in that fight.
Yeah.
And what Train said, he is spot on. It's guys like Amir Khan, Zab Judah, and Adrian Broner, man. You bet on them. And it's almost like, when a lot of us were like, dag, Mike coming out retirement again. You pick a Mike Tyson, you could pick Jordan, and you just think that Jordan is going to get 50, and it just doesn't happen when he plays for the Washington Wizards. Now, granted, I'm not saying Khan is like that. I'm just saying that's how they break your heart. Now, what's so crazy about Khan is that I feel as though, let's just think of it like this. When he got knocked out by Canelo, which was an insane fight, and granted, people always say, well, he was winning the Canelo fight. Yeah, that's true for moral victories, but he took a beating, okay? He took a beating, and let me tell you something. We were already on his top about Berdiz Prescott and being knocked out in 30 seconds by him. Let me tell you this right now. Khan has a lot of skills, but that fight, just to give you some perspective, was almost 2 to 3 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago, in 2016. Khan is now 32, 33 years old, and he had a lot of personal problems outside the ring. And now we expected him to go against a guy that Train said who is just nasty. Like, when I mean nasty, like Train said, family coming there with them red cups.
No,
They're not playing with you. You saw with Benavidez, the sister trying to fight the guys, the mom getting in there. And then on top of that, you got a cat, man, who had his car, give you some perspective, who had his car being fixed, and he didn't like the way that joint was turning out. And he rumbled the guy, that was fixing it. This guy, as Train said, is very, very, very nasty. And he doesn't know how to carry anybody. I think that what's going to happen in this fight I think that Khan, we got to give him credit. He's a gold medalist.
Yep.
You know, he's going to give, you know, Crawford some trouble because Khan does have a good jab.
And a
But the
reach.
problem with, I'm sorry, yep, and great reach. But the problem is, and I showed Roberto this picture earlier, was I was showing him because a lot of people think Khan is this big, imposing welterweight, and everybody thinks that Crawford is small. And I had to show this picture, not that nobody believed me, but it was shocking to me. It was eye opening to me because Crawford arms are longer than Khan's arms, and
Yes, 71-inch reach.
Floyd,
he
Floyd has a 72-inch reach.
he has a 72-inch reach, and on top of that, you know what? Here's a guy that's almost the same height, so that throws that out the window. Now, guess what you got? You got a cat, as Train said, who knows how to press you. You and I both know that if you can press Khan, you won the fight already. Not only that, the best, you know, I could see Khan having a good 2 to 3, maybe a good 2 to 3 rounds where, you know, that jab is throwing Crawford out, Crawford getting kind of used to it. You know, sort of like what he went through in his last couple fights. See, Crawford gets, you know, he has to get warmed up a little bit. That lawnmower sometimes, you got to press that, you got to push that prime button a couple of times for that engine to go. But once that joint get going, man, it's mowing and cutting down everything. And I just think that after about, as Train said, after about like 4 or 5 rounds, maybe 2 of those rounds where Khan has some great rounds, man, Crawford gonna start pressing him, and that fight is gonna look totally different, man. I got Crawford winning this fight by TKO in like the 6th or 7th round. Now, granted, let me tell you this real fast, just in all transparency. Just like I said in the Lomo fight last week, does this fight move Crawford up a notch in pound for pound? If you have him at 2, if you have him at 3, or if you have him at 1. And I said, no, this fight is benign. It's almost as benign as the fight with the Lomachenko had last week because I think that everyone is expecting him to do this. So it doesn't do anything to his stock per se, but it just puts him in a situation where, like you said, he's on a pay-per-view platform now, and we're just able to see what he has. But I think this fight, in terms of like, it, you know, it doesn't do anything for his stock per se. It's, you know, it really doesn't. You know, it's just another style. You know, it's just another style for him, man, to be honest, man. And hopefully he gets him closer to the other side of the street, as, you know, you guys talk about the business side so well. But I don't know. It's just an opportunity for everybody to see him. But I don't disrespect Khan, but I feel like he'll have his moments. And I feel like once that iron gets plugged in and he start pressuring him, and it's gonna be like remember Train? I don't know if you remember this, Roberto. Remember Train? How Penny was in Good Time when her mom put that iron on, and she was like, no, mama, no, that iron got real hot.
Like, you imagine having something like that on the show now.
Oh, man. That iron gonna get hot, man. Gonna be pressuring, man. Khan gonna be like, no, mama, no.
Yo, RD, about them the Antonio Tarver video you posted earlier with the gators.
That big behind dinosaur Train. They got gators running the street. Remember that remember that movie Train back in the day when we used to have VHS called Alligator? The alligator, they flushed the alligator down the toilet, and homeboy was like running around the sewers in the streets.
And he grew up that big.
Yeah, that's how this alligator looked today, Train, in Florida. Running around, this joint was a dinosaur.
That's crazy.
Yo, but I mean, I agree with both of y'all. Y'all make great points. I have Crawford winning this fight like anywhere between 7 and 9. Look, man, it is what it is. Look, none of us. If you gave us a batch of names, and maybe let's just say 6 names, right, as it relates to who we would want to see Crawford in the ring with, I don't think any of us would have even mentioned Amir Khan, like in January, you know. So when the fight was announced, all of us we gave our predictions right away. This is a name for Terrence Crawford. To your point, ROD, I don't know how much his stock goes up. I think we all collectively have Bud at number 1. Does he go below or I mean, can't go above, but I don't think it makes him that much bigger of like a star or anything, which again, to the point of this being on pay-per-view, man, I mean, I really don't know how big this is going to be as far as sales are concerned. Like, is this going to do more than Mikey and Spence? I don't think so.
No, nowhere close.
Yeah, right. So the thing now, man, is what happens after, because with Lomachenko, at the very least, he has a unification fight that will happen in the immediate, right? With Bud, I forgot who the Russian dude's name that fought a couple weeks ago that he fought to a draw. He was the mandatory for the WBO, and he looked terrible in that fight, and that was supposed to be Bud's next fight. So I'm thinking, like, what is the plan for Bud, man, as it concerns following this Amir Khan fight? Because this is what I've proposed, and in a perfect world, or maybe I should say even 5, 6, 7 years ago, when there wasn't such a divide with this network, and I think a fight that makes sense for both guys is Terrence Crawford and Danny Garcia. Why? They both have history. They were both the last 140 unified champions. And it's a world title fight for Danny. It's the first fight that they can do like a collab. And if Spence, Thurman, and Porter are all occupied, like, I don't see why not. I could see why they won't do it for obvious reasons, but I can't see why they at the very least couldn't come to the table and say, listen, let's do this Spence fight. We want to do the Spence fight, but why don't we try this Danny fight first? Because that's how they used to do it back in the day, man. Like, they would, they would promote these fights a year in advance or set it up, but then they would have these filler fights like, hey, we're going to have this fight first, and then we'll have the big fight. But I don't know, man. ROD, like, would you take a Danny and Bud fight?
I would, but again, you gotta have, in order to dance, you gotta have a willing dance partner.
Right,
and I think
I agree with that, right.
And I think that fight could have really happened at 140 before, Danny did his, like, catch me if you can type of thing. I just don't know. And Bomac, he put it on his IG page, just about how he had asked Danny to fight. It was prior to this. I think it was January.
Yeah.
And, he had no interest in it. So I'm just saying, man, I don't think that Danny personally think he's looking at it from a business perspective, which is fine. I think he has no interest in fighting Terrence Crawford. They have history. Sometimes, man, that history, man, people are just like, you know what? Why do we need a sequel to this? I'm cool on fighting you. So, Danny even said it himself. He said Terrence and Spence need to fight each other, and the winner can fight me. Like, you remember he said that?
Yeah.
So he has no interest in fighting him, man, and that's his prerogative, whatever he wants. But I don't feel like that fight makes sense. But I don't feel like it's happening anytime soon.
Right.
That fight could have happened at 140, and it didn't. He moved up, and when you and I were talking, it was like he could really seem like Danny could really be at 140.
Yeah, he said he was killing himself to make 140, and I mean, my whole thing is it's just crazy that we're talking about a fight that these are two guys in the division. One guy is a world champion. Let's just say after this Saturday. Both, I think. All right. Let me ask you this: don't you think? I mean, I know, like, me and Train are more on the business side of things, but I mean, don't you think a Terrence Crawford and Danny Garcia does more on pay-per-view than a Terrence Crawford Amir Khan fight?
I think it does. You know, I mean, again, that American fight does well if it's in the UK.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, for Danny, yeah, it would make more sense now, especially on a PBC card. Yeah, absolutely. But
I mean, I could see where this will. It could be. I mean, again, man, like we're obviously speaking from an optimistic point of view, but I mean, in the case where ESPN and Fox got together and made a pay per view, and they were able to do it. I mean, I can't. I'm trying to think where Danny would be in a better position. Because I mean, do you think like Danny and Thurman or a Porter rematch is pay per view? Like, is that a pay per view fight? And that's what I'm thinking. Like, why would they go about doing that? Because I don't think he's gonna fight Spence. But I don't know. It's just again, I guess to your point. Like, I guess it really depends. Like, what Danny wants to do, man. Because I mean, I think the daring to be great is trying to fight one of the world champions. You know, and it's just
yeah, I think it's just like almost like roadkill. Like it's sort of like okay, I'm not going to attack you now, but I'm gonna just wait till you kind of like wounded prey and just kind of go after you. And that's really what that welterweight division has been about now. Like, hey, let's see who's the wounded man standing, and that's just gonna be my last fight, not the last man standing. Let's just see who's the wounded man, and that's gonna be my next fight. So the path of least resistance, and unfortunately, man, we're gonna see on Friday what that next logical step is for both guys. Because for me, just as we're talking about who's Danny's next logical step, we're going to also find out who's Terrence Crawford next logical step too.
Right. So we'll see though, but that is this Saturday live on ESPN pay-per-view, and then obviously Danny and Adrian Granados on Fox. So we'll be back next week, man, breaking down these fights, and everything's leading up to Canelo, Danny Jacobs. They've been doing a lot of the promos. I've been seeing commercials as far as like they're back to the death of pay-per-view again, but that's going to be taking place May 4th, live from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, man. So that is pretty much it, man. Follow us at Guard Grill Boxing on Instagram, at GYG Boxing on Twitter, Facebook.com/GYG Boxing, man. We'll be talking about Crawford Khan, how that ends up, and the Danny and Granados fight, and there is fights coming up, in the coming weeks, and then in June, and we didn't even talk about Big Baby getting nabbed by Vada, and there's a possibility that he is likely out of the Anthony Joshua fight. I'm hearing that Luis Ortiz might be a last-minute fill-in. Yo, I doubt it. That'd be crazy if that happened. But that is pretty much the show, man. We'll be back next week, and recapping Crawford Khan and Danny and Granados. So until next time, peace.